Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're exploring how art can help integrate refugees into new communities. We're going to be focusing on one really fascinating article about this really unique initiative in Portugal.
Hmm. Yeah. Portugal, they have a long history of global migration,
Hmm.
right? So it's really the perfect setting to be looking at these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And the article, well, it starts with this quote, and it's kind of hard-hitting, I think. It's by 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗑, and it says, "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark."
Wow. Heavy stuff, right?
Yeah, it really makes you think about what these people have gone through. What would drive someone to leave everything they know behind?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be pretty desperate, like life or death,
Yeah.
and that's I think where art can come in. It can provide some sense of belonging, a way to deal with all that trauma, and even help rebuild a sense of identity.
So it's like a lifeline for these people.
Exactly, yeah, like a lifeline.
So let's unpack that a little bit. Let's start with how art can help empower refugees. And it's got to be more than just handing someone a paintbrush or an instrument,
Well,
right?
oh, for sure. It's way more than that.
Yeah.
Think about art therapy, for example.
Mm.
It can provide a way to express emotions that might be too difficult to talk about. It can be a powerful tool, especially for, processing traumatic
Right.
experiences.
Oh, yeah, like trying to explain what it was like to flee your home, the fear, leaving everything behind. I mean, sometimes words just aren't enough. And I know we've all had that experience where like a song or a painting just hit us on such a deeper level, you
Yeah,
know?
totally. And that's why I think these collaborations between refugee artists and local artists, they're so
Well,
powerful.
so it's more than just showcasing refugee art. It's about a real exchange.
Exactly. It's
Hmm.
it's a two-way dialogue,
Right.
shared experiences, breaking down stereotypes, and it really helps to build empathy, which I think is so important.
Yeah, it really gets to the heart of social integration, right? Which, by the way, isn't about erasing someone's culture, you know? It's about making everyone feel valued and able to contribute to society.
Right. And at the same time, being able to hold on to their own unique identity. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, celebrating diversity, not erasing it. Now, the article also talks about the importance of supporting marginalized artists, giving them platforms to share their work. But how do we actually do that? Like, how do we go beyond just good intentions?
Well, I mean, one thing is providing tangible support, things like grants and residencies and mentorship programs, things that can really help them build careers and become financially independent.
Right, because imagine having all this talent, but not the resources to do
Yeah.
anything with it.
Exactly. It's got to be incredibly frustrating. And that's where the digital world can play a big role, right? Social media, online galleries, all that can give them a platform.
But it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, they need those digital skills to really take advantage of those platforms.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about creating the art. It's knowing how to market yourself, how to use social media. And, a lot of marginalized artists don't have access to that training.
So the internet, while it can level the playing field in some ways, it can also widen the gap for others.
Yeah, for sure. And this kind of brings us to another really important point, representation. We need to make sure that diverse voices are being heard. And that means challenging the existing power structures within the art world.
You mean like the museum curators and the gallery owners?
Exactly. They need to be actively seeking out diverse artists and challenging those exclusionary practices that have always been there.
Because if we're only hearing the same voices over and over, then we're missing out on so much, right?
Exactly. We end up with this narrow view of what art is and who can be an artist, and that's just not good for anyone.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about empowering refugees, supporting marginalized artists. Now, the article also talks about community-driven initiatives. I love that idea, real change happening at the local level.
Yeah, me too. And there's so many ways to do this, right? Local workshops, festivals, cooperative art spaces. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And they all give people a chance to own their narratives, to feel a sense of belonging.
It's like planting seeds and watching them grow into something amazing.
That's a great analogy. And it's about creating this ripple effect. It
Oh.
goes beyond just the art itself. It sparks conversations, builds bridges between communities, and helps to create a more inclusive society.
And we can all play a role in that, right? I mean, we can volunteer, donate, go to these events, and just, support these organizations that are doing this important work.
Right. And I think Educational institutions have a big role to play, too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how can schools do a better job of teaching kids about different cultures and celebrating diversity?
Yeah.
That's something we really need to be thinking about.
Yeah. You're right. We need to be teaching empathy and understanding from a young age. Now, this article brings all these ideas to life through this fictional story about Nahara, a Rohingya refugee in Lisbon, Portugal. She finds this amazing community and healing through Tatanka's Orchestra Americana.
Yeah. Orchestra Americana, it's pretty special, you know, brings together musicians from all over the world.
And Nahara's story, while fictional, it's inspired by real experiences, and it really shows just how powerful music can be in bringing people together.
And it really hits on all the things we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Therapeutic power of art, the importance of community, creating spaces where diverse voices can be heard.
It's like the article took all these different pieces and wove them together into this beautiful human story.
Exactly. And it's a story that we're going to dive into even deeper as we continue.
So stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute to explore Nahara's journey and how it all fits into the bigger picture of social integration and inclusion.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about how art can help refugees integrate into new communities. And we left off with Nahara and her finding this incredible community in Lisbon through Tatanka's Orchestra Americana. What makes this orchestra so unique?
Well, it's really a reflection of Lisbon itself. It brings together musicians from all over, refugees, immigrants, local Portuguese artists. It's really a microcosm of the city's diverse population, and the music reflects that.
What does that sound like? Like, if I'm sitting in the audience, what am I hearing?
Okay, so imagine this, right? You hear these mournful strains of Portuguese fado, and then all of a sudden, you get this burst of West African kora melodies. And then on top of that, there's like this rhythmic pulse of Brazilian samba. And then woven through it all, you hear these traditional Rohingya folk songs. It's really incredible. Wow. That sounds amazing. It must be so powerful for both the musicians and the audience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for the musicians, it's a chance to share their heritage, to find common ground through music, which makes sense, right? Because music, it transcends language barriers. Like, even if you don't understand the words, you can still feel the emotion. You can still feel that shared humanity.
Yeah. It's like you hear a song for the first time and it just like, it moves you. Even if you have no idea what the words mean, it's like a universal language.
Exactly. And for the audience, it's a window into all these different cultures.
Yeah.
It really challenges what we think of as world music. Instead of categorizing it by geography, it just celebrates this incredible mix of influences.
So it's breaking down those mental boxes we put things in and just showing that art can be this incredible, melting pot.
Exactly. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about representation. The more we're exposed to different kinds of art, the more we challenge our preconceived notions about the world.
So true. Now, how does Orchestra Americana use technology? Do they use it to reach a wider audience?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're all over social media, live streaming their performances, offering online workshops. They're really good at using technology to connect with people all over the world.
It's like creating this virtual stage where anyone can experience their music and their message.
Right. And it lets them kind of bypass the traditional gatekeepers of the music industry, the record labels and concert promoters.
Yeah, and that ties back to what we were saying earlier about empowering marginalized artists. It gives them more control over their own narratives.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to Nahara's story, the article describes her journey from feeling like she doesn't have a voice to becoming this celebrated artist. What does that transformation tell us about art's role in healing and reclaiming identity, especially for refugees?
Well, Nahara's story really shows how art can be like a lifeline for people who've been through trauma and displacement. In the beginning, she's so hesitant to sing. The article says her voice is like buried under years of survival.
Like the trauma has silenced her.
Exactly. And through the encouragement of the other musicians, she finally, she finds the courage to share her story. And that becomes a powerful form of healing. She starts to reconnect with her heritage and reclaim her voice. It's a reminder that even after going through something so terrible, art can be a source of strength.
So the orchestra becomes like a safe space for her community.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to those community-driven initiatives we were talking about, right? Orchestra Americana isn't just about performing. They do all this outreach and workshops and community events, bring people together from all these different backgrounds. Imagine like a refugee musician teaching traditional instruments to local kids. It's this amazing exchange of culture and knowledge.
Yeah, it really helps create that sense of belonging for everyone involved, both, for people who are new to the community and for people who have lived there their whole lives.
Right. Everyone has something to offer. And this brings us to something really important. The need for policy and institutional support. Because, these community initiatives are amazing, but they can't do it all alone. They need systemic change.
So, like government funding for the arts, access to affordable housing for artists, policies that promote diversity and inclusion.
Exactly. Imagine if 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 had arrived in Lisbon and there was this system in place to help refugee artists. Grants, affordable housing, language classes.
It would have made such a difference. I mean, she could have focused on her art, on rebuilding her life.
Right. And that's why advocacy is so important. We have to create a system that recognizes the value of art and the contributions of artists from all backgrounds.
It's about investing in the cultural richness of society as a whole.
Exactly. And it takes all of us working together, policymakers, cultural institutions, individuals.
So thinking back to that quote that no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark, it seems like art can help transform that mouth of a shark into a place of refuge, a place where people can heal and rebuild their lives.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, isn't it? It's about creating a sense of home, even when people have been forced to leave their own homes behind.
And technology can play a role in that too, right? Amplifying these efforts and connecting people across borders.
That's a great question, and we're going to explore that in more detail as we continue.
Welcome back. We've been talking about how art helps refugees integrate and how it can empower marginalized artists. And you were just mentioning how technology can play a part in all this.
Yeah, the internet, it's really incredible when you think about it. All these digital platforms, they give us this opportunity to connect with people all over the world, like Orchestra Americana, using social media and live streaming to reach a global audience. That wouldn't have been possible even just a few years ago.
I mean, someone sitting at home anywhere in the world can experience this incredible music.
Right. And it's more than just watching a performance, These platforms, they can help create a sense of community. Like, imagine online workshops where a refugee artist is teaching traditional weaving techniques to people from all over the world.
Wow, yeah, it's like creating a virtual tapestry.
Exactly. And virtual reality, that's another exciting possibility. Imagine experiencing a Rohingya dance performance in VR, feeling like you're actually there.
It's like stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing the world through their eyes.
And we can't forget about digital archives. They're so important for preserving cultural heritage. Like, imagine a database of artistic traditions from displaced communities all over the world. It would be an incredible resource.
I have digital museums celebrating all this diversity.
Yeah. But we need to make sure everyone has access to these technologies, right?
Yep.
Governments and organizations, they need to invest in digital infrastructure and digital literacy programs.
Because if we don't, we risk making things worse, right?
Yeah.
Widening the gap between those who have access and those who don't.
Yeah. And think about how online fundraising can help, empowering marginalized artists to connect with supporters from all over the world.
It's like crowdfunding for creativity.
Exactly. And it gives artists more control,
Yeah.
They don't have to rely on those traditional gatekeepers. But we do have to be careful, right? I mean, technology, it's a powerful tool, but it can be misused.
We have to be aware of the ethical implications, things like data privacy and cultural appropriation.
For sure. And that's why it's so important to keep having these conversations, to be critical, to keep learning, and to adapt as technology changes.
So, that quote we talked about earlier about home being the mouth of a shark. Well, it seems like art and technology, too, can help us create a world where fewer people have to experience that.
Yeah. I mean, it's about using our creativity and our ingenuity to build a better world.
A world where everyone feels safe and welcome.
A world where everyone has the opportunity to share their stories and their art.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today, but I hope you're leaving with a sense of hope and inspiration. If art can help refugees find a new home, just imagine what else it can do.
What other problems we can solve, what other bridges we can build.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.